Hi, my name is Wyvonne Williams, and welcome to my podcast called Parenting Interesting Children. Today, I want to talk about my up and coming book called Parenting Interesting Children, a real life story of raising a child with special needs. I wrote this book because I wanted to share what my experiences have been like raising a child who has special needs. It has definitely been a wild journey, one that I did not expect. However, I love my son with all my heart, and I know that most parents feel the exact same way as I do. And so in my book, I talk about medication management, and that's something that's a big topic for parents because we oftentimes wonder, like, should we put our child on medicine, should we not put our child on medicine? We feel guilty if we do, we feel guilty if we don't. We can also feel pressured by the school or by like other people in our environment, and so those are things that I discuss in my book. I also talk about what it's like when you have a child who has behavioral challenges and they are in school. That in itself is a wild journey. And oftentimes our kiddos may need IEPs or 504 plan and other accommodations to support their learning. I discuss those things in my book, how to get an IEP, what IEP meetings are like, and how there are different specialized school settings to support our children. I also talk about the importance of getting the right diagnosis because in order to treat our children, we need to know what it is that they have. We don't want to label our children. Nobody wants to be labeled. However, having a diagnosis means we know what is going on with the person and what is the best way that we can help support them. And so there are different types of providers that can support our types of families. And I talk about like who do you see first, like what steps you take to get into these services. I also talk about what it's like for a child to go into a residential treatment center, what happens during their stay there, and what feelings a parent might have while their child is in such a setting. It can be very challenging and difficult, but I share my experiences, and honestly, it was not the worst thing that ever happened to us. It was actually a really good thing, and I do not feel guilty about the decision that I make. I do point out in my book that as a parents, we are experts on our children and we know what is best for them. So oftentimes it's easy for people who are not in our shoes or for people who are not sharing a journey similar to us to judge us for the decisions that we make. But at the end of the day, we have to come home and we live with our children and we have to do what is best for us to keep our family healthy. And so I talk a lot about that in my book. Also, it can be scary when you think about foster care. And I know initially when it was recommended to me that my son go into a foster home, I was like, no. However, it was explained to me the difference between a traditional foster care and a therapeutic foster care home setting. And so folks who do therapeutic home foster care are specialized. They have specialized training in working with children who are severely emotionally disturbed. They have additional trainings than people who do traditional foster care. And so I had a wonderful experience with working with a foster mom and the agency to help support the needs of my child for a few months several years ago. And so if you're a parent and maybe somebody has mentioned something to you about that and you don't know what to do or what that experience is like, I share all of those things in my book. Another important topic I talk about in my book is the importance of self-care, because as a parent you can't pour from an empty cup, and our overall goal was for our whole family to be healthy. And oftentimes we forget about ourselves and we're running around doing lots of things for our children and neglecting ourselves, and that's just not okay. And so when I mean by self-care, I don't necessarily mean getting your hair done, getting a pedicure or massage. Those things are nice, but as a parent who have a child with special needs, for me to go out and do some of those things, it brings me anxiety, because the whole time I'm wondering, oh my goodness, what is my child doing? Is he self-harming? Is a sitter having a hard time with him? So those are some of the things that's running through my mouth, and I can't truly relax and enjoy like those things that most people would enjoy for self-care. So for me, my self-care consists of getting help for myself, getting medicine to help manage my anxiety, and counseling for myself, because it's good as a parent to have a person that's there to support you and to listen to you. And that's what we all need. We need to have our tribe. We need to have people that can come alongside and support us. But oftentimes it's really hard to put together a tribe, because oftentimes our family members and friends, they do not understand our journey. They make assumptions. They can also make comments to us that are not pleasant, that cause division in our family. And oftentimes people will say, hey, I don't see anything wrong with your child. But that's because they're not with your child 24/7. And our children feel most comfortable with us, and they let us see them at their worst. And it's okay, because it's good that our child can be themselves around us. However, when they do act out, it's overwhelming and it's really awful. And we as parents, we need an outlet. So getting help for yourself is the most wonderfulest thing ever. I would encourage you to pick somebody and to pick people in your support group who are safe. And what I mean by safe is people who are not going to put you down, people who are not going to try to make your particular situation worse, people who are just going to love on you and your family as is. They're not going to try to tell you what to do and how to do it. They're going to be the kind of people who say, what do you need? What can I do to help you? Not the kind of people who are going to tell you, you need to do this. You need to go to this place. You need to spank your child. You need to do this. You need to, do all that stuff. That is not what we need when we are a parent with a special needs child. That is just not helpful for us. If anything, it makes us feel worse. It brings about a lot of tension among people who we think are there to support us. And so it's really good to have those people in your life that are there for you. And you might be wondering, well, how do I find these people? Because the people in my circle have vanished, or it's COVID. Like, how do I get support? How do I meet with people? How do I hang out with other parents? And so one of the ways you can do that is by joining online support groups on different social media platforms. There's groups for parents with kids with ADHD, ones for children with disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, ones for families raising children who have dyslexia and autism and other learning disorders. There are tons of these groups available, and a lot of them are private, which means you can make any kind of comment that you want, and you're not going to necessarily be judged, because all of the people in the group are sharing a similar journey as yourself. On some of the groups that I've been in, I've had parents say, hey, I don't even want my child. But what they're really saying is they wish that their child didn't have that disorder. But the fact that they can feel free to share their utmost feelings and thoughts, that thing is liberating, because it's not healthy to stuff and to keep things in. It's good to get things off your shoulder and not let them fester until one day you just explode. And so in those groups, you can really say how you feel today. Like, today is like the day from hell. You can say things like that. You can show pictures of maybe your child put a hole in the wall, or maybe you got a letter from a school teacher or someone with bad news about your child. you can post that, and what you'll get is tons of support from other families with this who are going through similar situations. And so I found it really helpful. But also, I want you to remember that it can also be triggering for you if you see other parents posting things. It might make you feel more overwhelmed, because you might wonder to yourself, well, will my child start doing this? Or, oh man, my child is doing this. Like, oh my goodness, is this my life? And so I want you to remember, like, self-care is also taking breaks from like social media and just taking time out to do things pleasant for yourself. And so also, in addition to like having those support groups on social media, there might be other groups from local community agencies where you live that provide free support groups. I know I live in Maryland, and they have an agency called the Maryland Coalition of Families, and this agency is throughout the entire state of Maryland. And I was put into contact with them, and I have a peer support specialist who is a parent of children who have special needs. And so most of the employees at this agency are parents and caregivers of children with special needs. And so they are sharing the same journey, or let's say their kids are already adults or teenagers, or maybe they're grandparents or foster parents that have been in our shoes. And so that's awesome, because this is like this huge agency of wonderful support. And so my peer support specialist, she calls me every week. We can talk about any and everything, and believe me, we do. She texts me. She also leads support groups on like self-care. And it's awesome because, again, in these support groups, they're facilitated by other people, like in my shoes. And so I feel like at home, I feel loved, I feel understood, I don't feel lonely. And so my peer support specialist, not only does she talk to me, but she talks to my son. When my son sees me talking to her and having a good time, he wants to talk to her too. I'm like, the nerve, like really the nerve. So he will want to speak to her too. I'm like, yo, she's not your peer support specialist, she's mine. Like, you have your own counselor. Like, you have people, you have me that you can talk to. Why is it that when I talk to my peer support person, another parent, he wants to talk to her too? And the awesome thing about it is there's not an issue. She talks with him. He explains to her the mysteries of the world. He tells her like everything as if like he's known her for years. But that's how awesome it is to have a person that supports you. Not only is she supporting me, but by her supporting me, she's also supporting my son. And my son is also learning how he can also express himself, that he can talk about any and everything that's bothering him and that's on his mind, and even things that's not bothering him. He can talk about things in his life that are fun, things that he likes, and that's awesome. And so sometimes I just have to fight him to get my phone back so I can talk to my peer support specialist. But it's a wonderful program. It's absolutely free. And if you do live in Maryland, just reach out to the Maryland Coalition of Families. I'm not getting paid to comment about them. I'm just trying to make a point that there are agencies that offer services specifically geared towards supporting the needs of parents who have children with mental health and behavioral challenges, and also for parents whose kids may have issues of substance abuse. And so I've gotten tons and tons and tons of support from this agency over the last year of me living here in Maryland. Another way to find support can also be if you have a certain faith or a certain belief. You can find support from people in your local church or whatever group that you are a part of, or whoever you identify with. You might be surprised the people that are willing to support you. But sometimes we just have to make ourselves vulnerable and open up about our situations for us to get these people involved, because nobody can read your mind. nobody will know that you need help or how, let's say, bad your situation is if you don't say anything. How will people know? People can look at you from the outside, but sometimes we can give off the persona that we're okay, that there's no issues, but really we're falling apart. And the only way for us to truly get help is to say, hey, help me, help me. And so reach out to people at your church or people in other like groups that you hang out with. You'd be surprised who you'll meet. And so I talk about that in my book, the importance of self-care and getting help for yourself. I also talk a lot about my experiences overall with being a parent and the struggles that I've had, but I also talk about the good times that I've had. And it's really good to not only just focus on what's going right, but even to notice and to know even small achievements, and even big achievements. For example, my child has not been in a residential treatment center in 3 years. So that to me is a big accomplishment. And I'm just so happy about that. I'm also happy that my child graduated from elementary school, and in school, oh my goodness, was a complete nightmare from kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade. It has been really rough. I do talk about that in detail in my book, and how I became famous in elementary school because of my child and his interesting behaviors. That's a lot to deal with. But for him to have graduated is a huge accomplishment. I feel as though as a parent, I'm more excited about him graduating and, moving on to middle school than he is. He doesn't seem to have any feelings or, there's nothing. But for me, I feel like I graduated from elementary school. And so as parents, we need to, again, acknowledge those big moments and the smaller moments. And it's good as parents to also educate ourselves on the different diagnoses and labels that have been placed on our children. The more we know, the better we can advocate for them and get them the right services they need, and for them to be placed in the right programs that's best able to support their needs. And so I hope you pick up my book. It's called Parenting Interesting Children. It will be released August 17th, 2021. Right now it is available for pre-release on Amazon. You can also check out my website, wyvonnepublishing.com. And I hope that you subscribe and like my channel. And again, I wish you the best on your journey. And before I go, I want you to remember that it is not your fault that your child has special needs. You are not alone. There are parents all over, not just here in the United States, but like worldwide, who are raising children with various challenges. So you are not alone on this journey. Like, there are tons of us that are thinking the same thoughts that you are thinking, that are feeling overwhelmed just like you, who even feel embarrassed, depressed, and overwhelmed. But you know what? There is support. And that's the last point I want to make for you, that help is available. Like, you do not have to do this thing by yourself. And if you want more information, again, feel free to email me. My email address is starburstcounselingwellness.com, and that is actually the email to my private practice. Again, I am a licensed mental health counselor, and so the focus of my private practice is to support the emotional well-being of parents who are raising special children. And parents may be suffering from anxiety, depression, and have even a lot of trauma. And so I'm here to help you. So if you feel as though you want extra support and you live in the state of Maryland or Alaska, feel free to email me. And my website is starburstcounselingwellness.com. Good luck on your journey. Bye.